Hello, everyone, and welcome to SmashBoxxTV podcast 544. Sam Miller, the Disc Golf Guy, coming to you again from Thailand, Chiang Mai, Thailand, that is, along with Johnny V. Johnny, I'll admit, I just got up. It was a late night uh,
How
and
many?
not filled with excitement this time.
I was
Not
gonna
filled with
say,
excitement. I was editing for a couple of hours last night, and
how
next thing you
many
know,
of your nights are not late night nights then?
um,
And for you, like I know it's a
100%
late
fair
night.
point.
How many times do you go to bed before 1 a.m.?
Oh, that's zero.
Okay.
Uh, that's zero. Except for last week. Last week when I was in Samui because I was playing in the morning, filming in the afternoon, that required a much more concerted effort. I was exhausted, the humidity was up, and then they were the very, very long days. Here in Chiang Mai, where I filmed rounds two and three of the tournament, which didn't go off then till, you know, one or two or three in the afternoon. Yeah, those were 3, 4, 5 a.m. bedtimes. And last night, at a very random notice, I pick up my phone and I see there's a Disc Golf Pro Tour media meeting
Yep.
that was at, I don't know if it was 12:03 or 1:03, whatever it
I think it
was.
was 12:03.
I don't
It
even
was
know,
12:03. Well, I think it was like 10 something that here.
probably
But
11:03 your time.
yeah, I think that
Yeah,
sounds about right.
11:03 probably a.m. Yeah, so it was a
12:03.
little after midnight. Our
12. It was 12:03. I just looked at my
Okay,
calendar.
thank you. So it was 1:03 a.m. here. And I was like, I don't even remember seeing an invite for this. Somehow it's in my Google Calendar. Sure, I'll join. It's in 3 minutes or 4 or 6 minutes or whatever. I join it. Lots of good information from the Disc Golf Pro Tour and all of the full time and part time people that do all of the real work over there, and talked about things about like graphics packages and a few different strategies that'll get implemented this year. Ran through that. That was a good hour and 15 minutes. And then next thing you know, I'm talking to AJ Risley after the fact, and I'm doing more editing. And next thing you know, it's 4 a.m. And I'm like, oh, I have to get up in like 4 hours and do a podcast. So here we are.
You, you,
Lots of
you,
the editing
you have to be careful
yesterday,
because
but no,
graphics packages right now are a touchy subject for people.
really.
Did you happen to watch the Super Bowl at all on Sunday?
No, but Mo did reference something about stealing one concept from, I don't know if it was the Super Bowl or a PGA thing, but no, what was what did I saw exactly 0 minutes and 0 seconds of the game.
It was a new graphics package, as you could kind of tell, mixed with a little bit of the the season Fox package. Because when a player scores a touchdown, they'll show kind of like a cartoonish version of that person with the word touchdown under it. They've been doing that all season.
Mm.
But this graphics package looked like it looked honestly like it was created in Microsoft Paint. It was it was
Interesting.
so basic. Like the names were just these big square blocks of color with the KC and the PHI. The fonts weren't even that good. I guess people were complaining that on TVs it looked fuzzy because it had like a light border around it. The clock had like this semi translucent background, but there was no full background underneath of it all. All the stats that they pop up, like, oh, Jalen Hurts is 4 for 7 and 312 yards. It's like popped up in the lower right hand corner or the lower left hand corner, depending on where it is, with a drop shadow. It was just it felt to me unpolished. I didn't like it. Now, I don't necessarily think that graphics have to be uh, elaborate, but just the way it felt like it was kind of scattered. It wasn't. It
Huh.
was kind of, you couldn't see like when graphics were popping up, and I'm sure they were going for a lot of that. They were going to not distract the user from the experience. Maybe this looked better on phones or mobile devices because of how big
Hmm.
the score was and the graphics. So that could be something as well. I just didn't like it. And it just felt unfinished to me the way a Super Bowl shouldn't. But I mean, again, one man's opinion. That's but there I know there were a lot of other opinions. There was one or two people who said they really liked the minimalistic, and there were a lot of people that said they hated it. So online. But that's it's a touchy subject whenever you change things up, and my
Wait a
understanding is
minute. So you can't please everyone? They
nope,
can't please
you
everyone?
can't.
This multi-billion-dollar industry?
And you heard at the Pro Tour that we're going to get a slightly new graphics package coming at us. That's going to be a little bit more in line with the Jomez package, based on where things are placed, so that cameramen have a more consistent idea of make sure to keep the disc framed. Don't have it framed in the lower right or the lower left or wherever that is, so that we don't have to mess around with two different graphics packages when they're using the same footage. So it makes a lot of sense with what the Pro Tour is doing. I'm glad they're doing something like that.
Yeah, I mean it's a little bit of a nice refresh. I'm not really particularly picky about that type of thing in the first place. I'm not graphically inclined either,
Me neither.
so maybe that's why. But it everything looks really good. They're excited. We're all excited for the world to see it. So that was a big conversation piece as to and it's funny because you don't really think you see it on the professional side of big sports, like you just said, and unless you're specifically paying attention to it, so much of that stuff just happens and you've never thought twice about it, as you shouldn't. It's just part of your viewer experience. Um, but to know how an infographic appears on the screen and if something rolls in and dissolves out and all those types of things and where everything's placed, and then you have to obviously be so concerned about the Cana current conditions and how that looks, and then a flight factory drone preview, um, and the mapping and QR codes. Like there's a ton of stuff that goes into it, again, all reserved for far smarter, more artistic people than you or I. And I'm excited about it. And there's obviously also a lot of emphasis on the fact that the Disc Golf Pro Tour's in its 10th year this year. And that's pretty exciting in itself. It is funny to think back and think, holy cow, where were we 10 years ago? And where have we come? And yeah, it's all part of the excitement.
We were much younger men back then. It was a pretty quiet week in disc golf. Not gonna lie. We saw there was an announcement today from the Pro Tour. Speaking of the Pro Tour, about the Disc Golf Network, and it's literally called Disc Golf Network expands coverage in 2025. And what this is talking about is the additional things that are going to show up on the DGN Pro and Standard subscription. So we're going to see a DGN Match Play Championship on the Pro and Standard account. It looks like they're going to be doing some in-season regional matches at Music City, Crocal, and the LWS Open. Players will earn their way into a final Match Play Championship held at Hornets Nest in North Carolina shortly after the DGPT Championship. So that's something new. They're covering Pro Masters this year, the final 3 days. One day of MP40, one day of FP40, and then the final day of both.
Oh, okay.
So just so you're aware of that, Terry.
I'm on that event. And for some reason I thought it was the last 2 days. So I learned something new. Okay. Well,
yeah.
Good thing I didn't book my flights yet.
Yes, it's final 3 days of competition. You're not going to fly there anyway. You're going to drive to Minneapolis probably.
No. I'm so
because you're coming
torn
back from
and disappointed
Bend or something.
No. So the plan, as far as I know, is that we're covering the last 3 days. And even though it's in Minnesota, which is about a 5-hour drive for me, and I love going to the event, I'm in the booth with maybe Nate and or Val, and I'm flying out to Bend. Yeah,
that's right. Because they're not going to do the booth at Pro Masters. Okay, so you're getting Pro Masters now, which is a DGN Pro exclusive. So you have to have the Pro membership. Then we've also got for for the first time ever with a pro exclusive, is the European Disc Golf Championships. Now, this is the event not to be confused with the European Open. This is the European Disc Golf Championships. This is a more exclusive event for just European players. It's going to be taking place in Norway. And this is apparently a biannual event. It's exclusively available to players from select countries, not even all European countries. So select countries. There's a link there.
Can you be from the Gulf of America?
Not yet. It's only for us. If you look it up when you're there, I wonder what it shows you. Does it show you the Gulf of America while you're in Thailand and looking there? I don't know.
Is it regionally based?
Yeah.
Because I actually did.
And it might be because of where your Google, if you go, I'd be curious if you want to do an incognito browser and looked at it, Terry, versus your logged in browser. Because yes, it is regionally based, because that is just the American, what we're calling it. So if you're in Mexico, it's still going to come up as Gulf of Mexico. Interesting.
When I type, yes and no. So obviously I'm in Thailand with a Thailand IP address, and because I'm not smart enough to use a
VPN,
whatever they're called. Yeah, thanks. And this happened to me yesterday because I saw a meme or something posted. So I went to Google Maps, and as soon as I type in Gulf of Mexico, it says Gulf of Mexico, parentheses, Gulf of America. When I'm in Google.
And are you in an incognito browser?
I am right now, yeah.
Okay. All right. Well, unless there's some cookies on your system that somehow show that you're an American. Yeah. But yes, it will be different depending on where you're from and what you're showing. So
interesting. Yeah, I didn't know that was.
Yeah,
I didn't know that was the.
We don't have the right to universally rename a body of water like that. We can do it internally for government and United States things. That's a whole other podcast, Terry. We're going to move on.
It is. No, I have to ask this first. Please tell me you also saw somebody, and this is particular because of where we live. We live right next to the Lake Michigan. Like you could practically throw a few frisbees and land in it. I saw someone post yesterday, since we're renaming things, we're just going to call it Lake Wisconsin. And they had Lake Wisconsin drawn on the map. I did find that funny instead of Lake Michigan. And it's even funnier because you and I live, right next to it. So anyway,
I've said this before on our podcast. They can have Lake Michigan. We should have the UP. I'm sorry, Yoopers.
Well,
that's part of
Wisconsin. That's true.
We should be invading and taking over the UP. That should be part of Wisconsin. But anyway, moving on. It says more top-notch post-production coverage from Jomez and MDG Media. It's the same Jomez next day coverage. MDG Media will continue to do the next day stuff. They're talking about some platform improvements. They don't give too many details about that. And then we still see that there's that the price is not going up either. The price is staying the same. So whatever it was last year is staying at this year, and we are still going to see the USDGC and the European Open to a pro exclusive portion of your of your subscription. So you need to be on the pro level to get those two events. First day coverage is still free on YouTube. It's more or less rolling back what we had last year with Match Play, Pro Masters, and European Disc Golf Championships. Those, if you want the TLDR on it, that's what it is.
Okay. Sounds good.
Yeah.
I know what I think I know mostly what weekends, not exactly every day, obviously. I think I know mostly what weekends I'm working and what weekends I'm not. So I guess I'll figure it out from there. Speaking of tours.
Go ahead.
Okay. I was just going to say, speaking of tours, I have been reached out by one or more of the people from the Down Under tour. Specifically, one of them being Harry Pearson, who I don't think I know personally. I have been reached out by him. Let me double check this. The name, Henry. I apologize. Henry Pearson. At some point, we're going to get him on. He may even pop on tonight here. It's a possibility yet. We've exchanged messages. It's not on him, it's totally on me in terms of the messaging back and forth. But if we get a chance to have him, we're certainly going to do just that. But Henry Pearson of the Tour Down Under, we've said it for a few weeks here. With everything that's been going on over there, it only makes sense that we learn more of the ins and outs about what they have, logic, the backstory, the future plans, things of that nature. So if not tonight, it will likely be very soon that we'll have Henry Pearson join us on the show, which also brings me to a little housekeeping in that next week, I think during the show, I'm finally returning to the US, and I think I will be probably somewhere over, are we still calling it Canada? I'll probably be over Canada roughly when the show
Mm.
is starting. So
It's
I do not think I will be on the show next
we
week.
actually renamed it. It's more North America. So sorry.
Okay, whatever,
Yeah.
whatever it's going to be, or
South
that general
Alaska. I can't
area,
remember. It might be South Alaska. I'm not sure. You know.
whatever. I just know that by the time I'm coming back, I will not quite yet be back to the Chicagoland area.
That's
If it's
fine.
still Chicago, I don't know. Whatever it's called, I won't quite be back here. So I'm throwing that out there now for you and the rest of the world to hopefully remember.
They'll all be celebrating. All right, Terry, we got two more things we need to talk about. Do you want to talk about
Okay.
personnel or do you want to talk about events?
Um, let's go to personnel.
Personnel. All right, next level. Phil Deloney leaving the Disc Golf Pro Tour, abandoning them, dropping them like a bad habit. Oh no, he's not. He's going to the PDGA. Like he's
Oh wait,
actually.
wait.
Oh yeah, wait.
Yeah.
Phil Deloney was named the PDGA Director of Competition. This was the same position that Rebecca Duffy held for a few years, I believe. He is coming from the DGPT. So ultimately, Phil. It's hard to describe what Phil did at the DGPT. He was a behind the scenes guy for the most part. He did a lot of stuff, the DGPT. So on one hand, I think it's a big loss for the DGPT. And on the other hand, it's a big gain for the PDGA. And to have Phil there, someone who knows now the DGPT side inside and out, literally inside and out, because the guy is phenomenal. Anyone that's ever worked with him or met him on the course can attest to him being just a phenomenal person and one of the hardest workers in at the DGPT. And I know a lot of those guys. So Phil is moving over to the PDGA, and he's going to be, as we said, the Director of Competition, which means, I think it means he travels a little bit less overall. I know he's trying to, I think I heard rumors he was trying to settle down more with a family, but he'll still be hitting a lot of events. So it's just a little less travel for him. But yeah, that is, he'll probably be sticking with mostly the bigger PDGA events and might be skipping some of the other DGPT events. Do you have any insight, Terry, as far as Phil or the position?
Yeah, I mean, for the most part, I feel like you nailed it in the fact that him and his wife welcomed a child in 2024, and so that's new and exciting for them. Of course, he's been on the road grinding for the last few years pretty hard, and he still will be at, I think, a lot of our biggest events, majors and such. Phil is often praised all over the place, as he should be. He's praised all over the place. In fact, just one specific one was, I think, Jerry Patterson, who's part of the Kansas City Wide Open and running that these days, was praising him during the announcement about how Phil stopped in Kansas City, made a whole bunch of great suggestions and information, and Jerry's just one of dozens of people that will tell you how helpful and insightful Phil's been. And like you said, he's worn many hats and had a lot of tasks at the Pro Tour. So it's definitely a loss to the Pro Tour. However, yeah, that's the silver lining, is now with him knowing what he knows, there'll probably even be better communication and strategies implemented from a PDGA perspective back and forth. And yeah, that's exactly it. So good to see that he is still in disc golf and in a very impactful role in the things that he's doing. So super excited for him. Congrats, and see how things go. Which
Yeah.
I'm. It sounds like a negative comment, but not at all. It's going to be great. So
And going along with that, there was some changes at the DGPT level. I believe there's an interesting position, honestly, I think. This might be even a new position. A new president of the DGPT. Dominic, hold on, because I'm old. DeFebo? Yeah, I think Dominic DeFebo. Sounds about right. Dominic is coming in as the president of, and Jeff Spring is the CEO and tour director, but Dominic will be, yeah, it is DeFebo. Okay. He will be the president. So he's going to be, I think, more or less heading, obviously the DGBT, it's behind the scenes workings, the member, or the employees, things like that. He will be in control of that. Jeff will probably take a step back from that type of work and focus more, obviously, on the events and the tour director. He's obviously still CEO, so he's still the top dog. Brian Cole, who many of you know out there, who's done a ton for the DGBT as well. He is moving. Oh, he's been the director of operations and logistics. He is now the vice president of tour operations. I don't know what that means, but he got a promotion. Whenever you go from director to vice president, congratulations. And then as well, Christine Jennings is promoted as well to. She's basically a full-time employee. I believe she's been promoted to director of administration and tour operations. So she's now the director of administration and tour operations. She was the DGPT executive administrator for the past 2 years. So, yeah. Anyway, a little bit of shuffling inside the DGPT, covering some of the stuff that Phil is leaving. Clearly, they need to make sure that those things are covered. And congratulations to everybody that got a promotion. Christine specifically said in her quote that she's going to bring a unique understanding of the needs of the FPO side of the DGBT. So she's going to see any and all elements related to the FPO division in her new role. So we should we'll see even more focus on the FPO this season due to Christine Jennings. So always a good sign.
excellent. Speaking of FPO, there's obviously been a lot of conversation and chatter with regards to if an executive order feels like this is all getting political, and it's not, but an executive order, what that does or doesn't mean for our transgender community. I have no idea. I know lots of
Nothing yet.
people love to instantly come on here and like get all worked up. It's funny how still a lot of people think they know exactly. I don't want to say just how I feel, but kind of. And also just the hill to die on. Like the fact that we had Bob, I think I released a video last week that had just the interview with Bob. And
Yeah.
one of the very first questions was was getting worked up about whatever the transgender policy is. Just the fact it's completely unrelated. I agree. It's a conversation that needs to be had. I'm totally good with it being had, and whatever resolution comes about is what it is. However, it's so completely unrelated, and that's what I just find astonishing about that conversation being constantly brought up and discussed when it's unrelated. It's like, hey, I just released a new video reviewing the champion, the Halo champion Mamba. Yeah. But let's have a transgender conversation. It's just so funny. I'm not saying the conversation shouldn't happen. It's just funny when it's completely unrelated to everything else that is going on.
Let's have it in the
That's
right
the part
spot.
that kills me. So,
and ultimately, nothing.
Yeah,
until we hear something from the PDGA or the DGBT, nothing changes. That's pretty simple. It doesn't matter what happens at any levels of government right now. The DGBT and the PDG are private organizations. They can do whatever the hell they want. They can make kind of almost whatever rules they want within legal boundaries, as we found. And so, as of right now, just because the NCAA has changed, doesn't mean that the PDGA has changed. Now, I haven't heard anything. I haven't seen anything. But that is where we currently stand. So just let everybody know that it's yeah.
And I'll to put a button on that. Yeah, it's obviously impactful what the NCAA has, and I haven't read all of the details or whatever. It's just been a headline for me, but certainly impactful. Decisions like an organization of that size making a ruling or a decision or a policy change or whatever the case might be. Yeah, I think it's very fair in the sense that they're looked upon as another
It's a bellwether.
I don't want to say resource. Yeah, sure. Like I think that may then lean us in one direction or another, or have
Certainly.
some impact as to what something that our organization might do. And whatever happens in that sense. So yeah. Anyway, I just know that it's yeah. I'm going to move on.
Okay. Then let's talk about
Uh,
disc golf events, Terry. The 2026 and 2027 PDGA major locations were announced. Not all of them, but a majority of them. Next year, Worlds
okay.
2026, Milford, Michigan. So some of you may know that as where the D-Glow happens. So we're going to see Pro Worlds where D-Glow happens, which means next year on the tour, there'll be no D-Glow. It's pretty standard. It probably means
Mhm.
that the Worlds will happen around the time that D-Glow normally did happen. It's kind of the way it's been. You know, it's not probably 100% the same weekend, but you could probably
Yeah, sure.
within 2 to 3 weeks. Usually, it's something like that. But yeah, Nate Heinold will be the tournament director there. So his crew obviously has shown that they can put on a phenomenal event. So they got chosen again. It's going to be our normal toboggan and then Black Locust South, which is only currently 7,300 feet, but they're going to lengthen it. Work with the Metro Parks to make that happen. I know nothing about Black Locust, so I've never seen it. I don't think I've been there. I just want them to bring
You
back
have not.
the Ann Arbor Monster. Let's do that one.
Yeah, no, you're not going to see that. Black Locust is the course that's also located in the same park.
Mm-hmm.
So when you're driving into,
Yeah.
you obviously, as you just mentioned, you're familiar with the Metro Park system there. They have some of the biggest parks that are just absolutely incredible, in Michigan. And so when you go to, is it the Kensington? No, it's not Kensington Metro Park.
Yeah, it's
What's the
Kensington
name of the
Metro.
park that we're even in? Is
Yeah.
it?
Yeah.
Okay. So when you go in there, if you take a different turn as you're coming into one of the possible entry points, that's how you can get over to the Black Locust course. So you want to talk about convenience. The fact that you're basically going to the same address, the same park, overall park. How many? I don't know how many acres that park is. That'd be a quick Google search. When you're going to it, both of those courses are going to then be located at the same place. So logistically, that alone is
Great.
obviously always going to be a huge win. That's kind of like, thinking about going. It's not quite as close as like the Milo situation where you go out to Milo and we used to have East and West and they literally, just started a few hundred feet apart from each other or whatever the case was. But the fact that we're in the same park for those two courses, obviously the Deagle the Deglow course that we've been seeing and playing for the last 5 or 6 or 8 years has been very well received. Plenty of hills, everything else, and then like you said, stretching out the Black Locust course. I myself also have never played it. I've been in the park, a number of times. I've never played the course. It's often where they host the AM side of the Great Lakes Open, and like you said, already at 7,800 feet, that's not
Mhm.
exactly a short and easy course by any means, but to stretch it out probably by a couple thousand more feet and make some course adjustments, I think will be pretty cool. And we've seen, uh, well, most people who haven't been there, but the people that have seen throughout the years that the relationship with that parks department has been very symbiotic, has been has been great, and I'm excited to see what they're going to do with it, and I trust that everything's going to go well
Yeah.
in that regard. Obviously, lots of criticism and or some negativity surrounding the idea that we have our PDGA board president as the tournament director, who also runs a number of other big events. Him getting granted, Nate Heinold being granted the award to, the bid. At face value, I understand the complaints. When I think bigger picture, I don't agree with the complaints, and that may or may not be a hot take by anyone, and that's fine. But again, at face value, like if you were just an outsider looking in, I do think and understand how
Yeah.
people are frustrated and or perceive it. And then I think about what Nate does at events to host the events, and until we have 10 other Nate Heinolds that aren't president that then can put on the events of his scale, until we have that, like, it's a viable solution for me. And yeah, that's what I'll say about that.
All right, we'll move on.
Because
2027.
uh, yeah, I was just going to say, to follow that up, this is nothing new in disc golf, that the people that are usually involved the most are doing the most, and therefore there's always going to be a perceived conflict of interest, and that is just true on every level. Go to your local club, you're probably mad at somebody in your club that you say is a conflict of interest because uh, one guy in your club prints t-shirts and the club uses him for the t-shirt printing, and you're mad at him, but he's also giving you the best price, always delivers them on time, and does the best job, and then gives back to the club in other ways.
And to be fair, there were only 4 bids. So I believe for 2020,
Yeah, it's
for 2026, 2027, there were only 4 bids. So 2027 is going to Portland, Oregon. So Portland is going to get probably the Milo Gold, and more than likely the Glendevere. It says here, yeah, collaboration effort from the Pro Tour, Stumptown, Glendevere Golf, Oregon State Parks. So yeah, so we're probably going to see our Milo Gold / Glendevere mix back and forth as everyone kind of think, and that's being directed by Jeff Spring. More conflict of interest. So again, these are people, and co-TD'd by Brian Cole, who we mentioned earlier, and Jesse Tomeno. So these are people we know can put on events, as Terry was saying. They are a known commodity with the Worlds. The last thing you want is someone that is going to overlook something, which is why the last few years have gone to people from Nate to Jeff to UC. We see a pattern here of known commodity, well put on Worlds. So I have no complaints with it. So if, again, as we always say, if you think your area deserves some sort of major, put together a bid, get together a crew, make sure you have the event all under wraps. Moving on to PDGA Amateur Worlds 2026, Buffalo, New York. 2027, Huntsville, Alabama. PDGA Junior Worlds 2026, Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. I didn't look. Are we going to get... it's been a while since I've been to Pittsburgh.
not the mix. Oh, no. Yeah, 2015 was
2015.
Pittsburgh.
Yep. So Pittsburgh Flying Disc Club.
Not Nakamixon.
No, not Nakamixon. That was in Allenton. Yeah.
Exactly. I had to.
But this,
catch
yeah, I'm not even going to bother to try to pronounce that. Anyway, 2027, Peoria, Illinois. So 2027, Junior Worlds is going to be at Peoria. Masters is in Peoria next year. So it's staying in the Midwest. It's going from Minnesota to Illinois.
Mm-hmm.
And then 2027, kind of Midwest, Tulsa, Oklahoma. So
nice. Okay.
U.S.
Yeah, and what I'll say to all of that is every one of the cities you just named, with the exception of Buffalo, has been on a recent radar in the last 20 years and have hosted a Worlds or a major or something of that nature, or a national tour or a disc golf pro tour or whatever, they've all hosted. They're proven places with people with proven track records, and so none of that is really a surprise. And I think clearly this should provide some excitement. Lots of people are frustrated that we don't see enough on the West Coast. So yeah, although it's the Pacific Northwest and it's a little bit up there, so to speak, next to southern or next to Northern America or wherever you called it earlier, uh, more Northern America. Um, yeah, we're going to see a Worlds out there, so that's very
Yep.
exciting. Yeah,
U-
and I'm looking forward to it.
U.S. Women's 2026 going further out west. We're doing Salt Lake City. Going to hit some mountain courses. It looks like. 2027, no bid was awarded yet for the 2027 US WDGC. It says here the committee is continuing to explore options for the 2027 event. What that leads some people to believe is that maybe we're going to see 2027 be the first year of Throw Pink as a major, which is a
Mm,
possibility. Or we get another major. At this point, nobody knows for sure. Maybe they just didn't get a solid bid for that. There were only 3 bids received for U.S. Women's. The Tim Selinsky Masters, Lake County, Florida in 2026, and then Burlington, North Carolina in 2027. Yeah, so those
mm,
are the 2026 majors. There has been no announcement of Champions Cup, so we don't know
okay.
where that's going to be. I know obviously PDGA wants to bring it back to the IDGC, but if the course isn't ready, I here's what we know. We know the PDGA isn't going to jump the gun again and make an announcement until they're 100% sure, because they don't want to end up with egg on their face. So obviously this year it is on the West Coast. We've got the guys at 1010. We've got Sean Jack running that, which is why we're not getting uh, a California event on the DGPT, I believe. That's right. No California event this year. I think we're skipping that.
Uh, no
Oh no, we're
O2B.
we are. Is
No,
there still OTB?
no,
No. Okay. No OTB because we're
no,
getting
no OTB open.
no OTB because
Yeah,
we got
because
the
we're having
Masters.
Champions Cup.
Yep. So that would mean there's no California event on the pro tour particularly. Instead, we'll just get it
Oh,
earlier.
sure, sure.
Yeah, that's what I meant on the pro tour itself. So yeah, and that's so we'll find out probably later for Champions Cup. No mentions of European Open either. So I
Mm.
think I don't know if that means anything. Clearly, with Worlds already announced, and who knows? Maybe Champions Cup's going to go to Europe too. I don't know. But ultimately, I'm sure Champions or European Open will probably be announced later once they solidify everything after this. Probably after this year's Worlds, we'll maybe know more. They'll get a better handle on that. Yeah, those are the majors announced. That was announced kind of at the end of last week, I believe.
Yeah, it's the reason I half the time I'm pondering or thinking either about the announcement and or some of the specifics. It's because I know some of this ahead of time, and I'm always remembering like that wasn't announced, or that was. When did that come out? How do I? Yeah, so excuse my bewilderment during some of those announcements, but it is all very exciting. Uh, I think one of the other big conversations is that, especially after being there, we've seen the excitement out of the group over in Estonia, specifically talking about putting in a bid for Worlds as well. And I think that's just a lot of that. There's a lot of that is timing. The fact that we're going to be playing a Pro Worlds in Finland this year, and Estonia wanting to put in a bid for, if not next year, the year after, just the idea of us returning.
Mhm.
And I know this sounds again so America first, but the idea of us returning to Europe for another Worlds so quickly. Somebody asked me about it this week and said, what's the practicality of us going there? I personally, and maybe we've said this before, I personally feel like that's a 1 out of every 5 to 7 ish years thing that
Mhm.
I think is remotely practical, if assuming somebody over in other countries like um, like Estonia or wherever if they're putting in legitimate bids, which I assume they will, just the reality is it's not going to happen more than every 5-ish years, is my feeling. Um, Obviously, we have so much more of our player base here, logistically, everything else. That's what I think. And that's no word from the PDGA. That's nothing more than me just making it up. But I feel like every 5 to 7-ish years, if we're having a Worlds over there more frequently than that, I would be shocked. Let me just put it that way.
Yeah, no, I'm
So,
I'm I'm with you. And Brad actually on our board mentions that there was originally talks of New London hosting Champions Cup next year, but I think
mm,
maybe because it wasn't announced in this lineup, maybe due to the Champions Cup redesign, maybe that's on hold, not knowing what's going to happen with I'm sorry, not or New London's redesign. Maybe that's why
yeah.
Champions Cup announcement is on hold. It could still happen there. It could still very well be announced, but they might be again holding their breath, waiting. Again, the PDGA doesn't seem to have luck with announcing or wanting to announce an event and then having a course get changed or redesigned. So ultimately, we will find out more about those events as they come. But thanks for reminding me, Brad, because that was talked about at Worlds a little bit, because there was all this talk about whether or not they're going to change hole 14 and things like that. So
hmm
yeah, it's
Well,
exciting stuff.
well, no, you're getting a little mixed up. We are going to see, I believe, uh, we're going to see the Disc Golf Pro Tour finale
Oh,
happening at
that's
Ivy
right.
Hill.
Maybe it wasn't. Maybe it
So
wasn't
you're
Champions
yeah,
Cup. You're right. I think I am. I am thinking.
no, yeah,
Brad, I
you're
think
thinking
you
of
did confuse me there.
I
Yeah.
yeah, Ivy Hill is in fact going to be hosting a
Yep.
Disc Golf Pro
You're
Tour
right.
finale, I believe, at some
Not the
point.
Champions Cup, the Pro Tour finale. My bad.
So, but the Champions Cup itself, New London hosting Champions Cup. I mean, that still might be a possibility. And Brad's just
Sure.
talking about something different.
Could be.
So yeah, that I can't say I've heard that specifically, but Brad probably knows something we don't, which is no surprise. So yeah, I guess we'll see. And of course, that fits in the idea of it being a quote unquote wooded major. It
Mm-hmm.
certainly kind of fits that narrative. Now, if the PDGA is really trying specifically to even
I
fit that
think
narrative, I don't know. It
I
just
think
happens to be
they
the
I think they
yeah,
are, but not to the detriment of the event. Like clearly you're not going to call this year's
yeah,
event a wooded major. Like it's just
bingo,
no
exactly.
one's you're not fooling yourself. Would they prefer it to be a more heavily wooded major? Yes, I think they would. I think there is some pressure and will and want in the PDGA just to get it to be like this is our wooded major. This is kind of a tighter, more accuracy filled, we'll say, throw off the tee kind of event versus some of our more power events, our open events. But ultimately, we can't set that precedent until we can get into a solid position with a course where we're there
Yeah.
regularly. Because they don't want to do it. Obviously, you don't want to do it at Ledgestone every year because then you take Northwood Black off the table for Ledgestone probably, and bouncing it
hmm
around. People maybe don't want to see Ivy 2 years or two events in a season with the Pro Tour Championship and Champions Cup. I don't know, but I think if they can get the IDGC to a position where they have a quality course that is probably more preferably wooded, I think that's what we're going to see, and this will be designated in the future as the Wooded Championship. But we can't get there until we're there. So,
Okay.
and then we will talk just a little bit more PDGA. We're going to talk PDGA events, the 47th New Zealand National Disc Golf Championships, Beauty and the Beast, what Terry and I are sometimes called, presented by RPM Discs. This is an A tier out of Christchurch, New Zealand. And you can see all the regulars down there winning this one. Apparently, and I have not watched it, debuting a new putt. Aaron Gossage. More of a spin
Mm.
putt is what I'm hearing. Aaron Gossage wins this, shooting 40 under, what was that? 1053, 1049, 1080, and 1042. So those are your
Dang.
some Good shooting. He wins by 8 strokes over Levi Stout. And then third place, Robert Burridge. Fourth place, Braden Sides. Fifth place, Luke Humphreys. Sixth place, Ezra Robinson. You know the season's coming up when Luke Humphreys starts jumping into that top 5 again. You're like, okay, we got some Waco action. We got maybe some Music City. Like early season, Luke Humphreys is on the board. Seventh place, Chandler Fry. Eighth place, Jeremy Coling. Ninth place, Eli Swanson. And a tie for 10th between Ben, Wylake and Nate Perkins. I believe it's pronounced Perkins. So that is your MPO. Your FPO, Ella Hansen wins this by 7 strokes over Sophia Denecki. Third place, JK Juliana Korver. Fourth place, Emily Weatherman. Fifth place, Tyler Chosick. That's it. Taylor. I'm sorry, did I say Tyler? Taylor.
It's funny.
No.
I only chuckle because we always second guess her last name.
I know that. I'm going to screw up both names tonight. The funny thing is that I need to change this because I zoomed my screen smaller so that I could read something, all of it in one screen. I need to blow it back up because the monitor is so far away, and they got the bright lights in my glasses, and I'm old, and all these things. Starting to see things. But yes, that is the Down Under, the New Zealand Down Under Championships. Do we have any more events down there? Which is, it's kind of crazy that Holland Hanley came for basically one event, won it, and left. I don't know if she left, but she didn't compete.
Yeah, I mean, is there any better way to leave a country for the first time? Be like champion, like undefeated.
I'm undefeated in this country. This country can't beat me.
Like, I'm out. Yeah, I don't. I just know the one social media post I saw from her was something of a very recreational level. I don't know if it was. I don't even remember what it was now, but it was some form of exploring or something of that degree, and seemingly having a good time. And yeah, maybe she wanted to mix just a little bit of business with the pleasure and the other recreation. So yeah, good on her.
I'm not faulting her. It's just kind of amazing. Just head over there, get a quick win, cover your plane flight, and have some fun, I guess. Next week we've got kind of the early season events that really start to mark the beginning of our preseason, as we kind of dub it in the U.S. You've got the 47th annual Wintertime Open. That was always, when the Pro Tour started on the West Coast, this was the event that kind of marked the beginning of the season for a lot of players. Less top names playing in this than we've seen in the past now that the tour is over on the East Coast. So it's less of a draw, so to speak. But we do have the Shelley Sharp, which I believe you're covering next week. Is that correct?
Yes.
I'm sorry if I spoiled it or threw you off.
No, neither. I personally will not be there.
No, but your channel will be covering it, right?
Yeah. Yes. So I will not be there. Spicy Boy will be at the helm in terms of camera work. And that actually segues right into one of the very few notes that I have for tonight's show, which is I'll use the word finally. Finally, I have been able to start releasing the FPO memorial coverage. Some people were a little bit frustrated, as am I, and I'll take the blame for it. FPO coverage release started this morning. Well, for you guys at least. Very first round started this morning. To be fair, 2 of the rounds were 100% edited and commentated on, thanks to Jen Allen and Sarah Isaac. However, then Jen went and did some Zuka stuff for like the last week and couldn't get to rounds 3 and 4 yet. This is of no fault of hers. She's busy. I didn't want to release rounds 1 and 2 and then leave everyone hanging for rounds 3 and 4, so I've been holding on to them. I just received round 3 from Jen, which tells me she's back in the swing, and that means over the next 4 days, or 3 days now, you're going to see rounds 2, 3, and 4 of the FPO coverage from the Memorial. So I'm tying 2 pieces of coverage information together here for you guys. But so thank you to everyone that's been patient. Of course, it wasn't ideal. It wasn't ideal that I was practically on my deathbed during that week, and the fact that I got any coverage out
I did literally
was
yell at one
good.
point
So
in our Airbnb. I literally yelled at you, "Just die already," because you were coughing so hard and gasping for air, and I
yeah,
just was kind of done with it. Just die already, Miller.
yeah, yeah. It was brutal, and then some timing, and then of course I leave the country a few days later. I'm getting files to Jen. Jen's coordinating. It was all a bit messy. Ultimately, we'll say it was my fault, and I'm super appreciative of Jen leading that charge and taking it upon herself to make things happen. So it is releasing, it's coming, and thank everyone for their patience. I'm not sure exactly the full strategy on Shelly Sharp because it's going to be a pretty
Sure.
limited manpower, literally manpower, and camera ops, and a little delay on the edit because I'm not there. But we're gonna get stuff to you as quickly as we can. So, and
Yeah, and for
and
MPO,
someone did post,
you've got a killer's lineup. You got Wysocki in his first event with Discraft Discs. I know he's put out some
yep,
videos,
yep,
but this will be his first competitive event with Discraft. You got AB, who, as we know, an Arizona killer.
I've heard of him. Yep,
Yep. Adam Hammis, done hunting for the season. Going to
yep.
start hunting for some wins. Parker
He was
Welk.
hunting lobster or crab or something last night. It looked like he had a full
Yeah.
plate of seafood in front of him last night.
Good for him. Parker Welk, Connor Rock, Drew Gibson, Jake Brown, Nick Newton, Levi Hancock. You've got a lot of big names there. And then on FPO side, you've got the return of one Katrina Allen. So you've got the Allen sisters, Jen Allen and Katrina Allen. They're not sisters. I'm not going to spread that rumor. I just think it's funny. They're not sisters, but the Jen Allen and Katrina Allen are both on top of the FPO field with Hannah Stavanovich and then Ashley Phelps as well. So that's your FPO field.
Yeah. Sweet. Yeah. So it will. Yeah, I'm excited. I appreciate Spicy Boy. He's going to be out there hustling around, getting action. This, I know we kind of said it during the memorial coverage. This will truly be the last ever high level footage and coverage that takes place on the Shelly Sharp Memorial Disc Golf Course, aka Vista del Camino. It'll be the last event that takes place before the construction. I think construction is slated to begin within a few days of this event completing. So there you go. And maybe I said it last week, maybe not, but somebody did recently make the comment on my channel and said, "Oh my God, I feel like this is the only course that Terry's channel covers." And and to
It's a
be
good
fair to their
portion,
point,
but
it happens to be, and what's maybe even worse is it's all very consecutive. I'm out there in November for the Phoenix Ladies Open, which is the short, easy version of the course, or easiest version of the course, so to speak. We're out there
you
for
don't have to
Phoenix Ladies
justify
Open
this,
in
Terry.
November. Well, I just want to explain it to everybody that we're there in November for Phoenix Ladies Open. The next month, December, now I've now covered the Big Arm Challenge that takes place in December. Then the next month in January is typically when they would have
The
the
Shelley
Shelley Sharp
Sharp.
Memorial, and then at the end of February / beginning of March is in fact the Memorial Championship. So 4 consecutive months, I'm covering footage and play out at Vista del Camino with only a few other events sprinkled in. I can totally understand how someone feels like that's the only
You're a
and
typical
that's also part of my busiest.
Wisconsin
Yeah,
snowbird. I mean, you go to Arizona during the winter months, you come back here for the summer
or Florida.
months.
Yeah.
I mean, yeah, either one. Just that's how it goes. So, yeah.
Okay, so another quick update. Henry from the Tour Down Under has reached back out to me. We've exchanged a couple messages here in the last few minutes, and it looks like shortly he'll be able to join us.
Okay.
And what that means is I need to get him a link and some information,
And send him the
and
same
let's see
link
if
you
we can
sent to
get him on
Ricky.
here. Uh, I'm sorry.
Yeah, no, that's fine. Do we have anything
So
else
we'll see
on?
if we can make that happen. Yes,
Okay.
I've got a well. Maybe like last week, we'll kind of mesh a little bit of the after show right into the regular show
Yeah,
here
that's
because
fine.
things are a little bit lighter. And I have another dentist appointment today. Today it
How
won't be. I won't be cutting it as close, but I do
how
have
did
another
your other
dentist
dentist
appointment
appointment?
to get.
How did your other dentist appointment go, Terry?
It went great. There's a very different. The one thing I'll say is there's a very different cultural experience in the sense that 100% standard, dental office, all that stuff. Nothing too crazy here in Thailand in that sense. However, the main difference is the main dentist who was prepping for a temporary crown for me and his assistant were giggling like I'll say schoolgirls, like kids, like a couple of children giggling throughout the entire process. And it's just very different because of the fact that you and I are used to, and everyone I think in the US is just used to like the dentist office is usually a pretty stale, dry, kind of drab, even if
Hmm.
it's
Yeah.
professional and looks nice, just kind of like this really stale experience. At least it always has been
Were
my
they
40
taking
some
little hits off
years.
of the funny gas?
The
I
funny
mean,
gas.
yeah,
No, I don't think so.
just like a Little
I
Shop of
just think
Horrors
it's
thing. Steve Martin.
uh yeah, I don't think clearly I'm not thinking it had anything to do with me. I think it's just part of their standard operation and interaction. I did talk to Aaron Herman here, the local who set me up at this place. He's like, yeah, that's totally common. And it's just we're like I just think of every dentist experience you have. Usually
Yeah.
you see like the dental assistant, they go in, it's the same questions, blah blah blah. There was a not much of a language barrier, but a little. But they were completely interactive, and I just sat there and let them do their thing. So that was I don't want to say it was unnerving, but it was odd.
It
Let's just put it
it
that way. It
felt
was
less
odd.
professional than what you're used to, which made you uncomfortable for a little bit.
I I wasn't second guessing the
No,
actual work,
there's
or
the
the
environment.
results or the
Yeah.
work. Yeah, but the environment was like, yeah, it just felt a little bit
These people
strange.
love teeth.
Overall,
Look at
everything's been
them.
good. Yeah, all about it. So that ended up, um, yeah, everything went fine. I go back, I get the permanent crown put in about 5.5 hours. So excited to be all wrapped up and ready to go with that. Another cultural experience, we'll say. Sorry, let me get this link ready. Another cultural experience. I had two of them yesterday. With where my hotel is, which I absolutely love, by the way, and would recommend to everybody. With where my hotel is, I have to cross over one of the main bridges to get back into the old city center. And that's also one of the absolute best possible places for them to set up a police checkpoint
Hmm.
because you just came over a bridge. There's not it's not real easy to turn around or backtrack. So you come over the bridge and you're immediately pulled over. Like there's a half dozen guys, police officers, and they're waving you in, and you're immediately pulled over. Um, and this time, I was like, the first time it happened 2 years ago, I was a little nervous, but I kind of thankfully understood what was happening because I was warned about it 12 hours earlier at a watering hole. I was warned earlier about how this goes down. Well, this time it was almost exactly 10 a.m., almost exactly 24 hours ago. I go over the bridge, they pull me over, and he motions to me international license permit. I'm like, I got you. I'm ready for this. I'm ready for this moment. I went to AAA. I paid my $20. I've got an international driving permit with a motorcycle endorsement on it.
Ooh.
So I whip it out. The problem is I have to move my helmet that's in my seat to then hand it to him. He looks it over, says I'm good. He approves of it, which Out of 1,000 people, if they pull 1,000 foreigners over, I bet you less than 10 have the permit. I'm one of those 10. I have the permit. I'm legit. Problem is, I'm not wearing my helmet.
I was gonna say it was next to your helmet, and you were on a motorcycle,
It's
right?
next to my helmet. So the fine is the exact same, 500 baht. Do not pass go. Do not get off this bridge. Do not do anything until you walk about a block and a half, a city block and a half, over to the police station. You're in line with 20 other people that all are doing the exact same thing that you are. You go up, you pay your 500 baht fine, you walk then back. I mean, we're like it's just a constant string of people. Like every single person's doing the exact same thing.
The walk of
You
shame.
then walk back. Yeah, basically you show them the receipt that you just paid it, and you're good to go. The difference is when you don't have your international permit, you're good for 3 days. You've paid this ticket. They know you can't like go get a permit overnight or instantly. So that fine, basically that ticket means you're good for the next 3 days. 2 years ago, I got it and I had 4 days left, and I was like, oh, I risked it and I was fine. But anyway, the helmet, because you can get those replaced or get one available instantly, you're good for 1 day. But all I had to do was take the helmet out of the compartment and put it on my head. So they got me either way, I guess is the point. Whether you don't have the permit or you don't have a helmet on, or if you don't have a permit and you don't have a helmet on, they'll still give you a $500 fine only, or a 500. I'm sorry, 500 baht fine, which 500 baht is about $15. One of the other funny notes was I was sitting in my place paying, and the woman next to me, slightly younger, she's like, I don't have 500 baht with me. Like I don't have it on me right now. And so I ended up giving her 500 baht, and then she turned around and PayPal'd me. She's from Germany. She turns around and PayPal's me in pounds or whatever it was or something. Not Germany. I'm sorry. Uh, where's she from? It doesn't matter. Point is, and then everyone in there just has this same like bewilderment, because for everybody else that was in there at the time, they've never been through this before, and this is a very common practice. So if you're in Chiang Mai long enough, you're probably going to get stuck in one of these checkpoints, and you're probably going to go through this whole routine. So there's your travel tip and or warning
International
about being
travel
in
tip
Chiang
with
Mai.
Terry Miller.
It's and then I'll follow that up with something that I did that was, I don't want to call it risky, but last night I went to a night bazaar. That the night bazaar, that's not risky. It's there's these massive night markets. What I did though, Johnny,
Uh
is I
oh.
took my Ray-Ban glasses and I went straight live from
Oh
my glasses.
yeah, I think I saw. I didn't actually watch it, but I saw that you had gone live.
Yeah, so that was cool. I'm looking for feedback. I don't know if I don't want to look at my phone because it feels weird to be looking through the glasses, and so it's like this weird inception thing. Um, it I only had about 15 minutes left of power on the glasses, which I didn't know at the time. But walked around, showed everybody some of the night market, and it's just such an interesting perspective because obviously we're all so used to like carrying your phone
Mhm.
and then showing things. But when you're literally just wearing glasses and everywhere you look and everything you do, like that's what the world is seeing. I'm curious to know if people like that or enjoyed that, because I feel like this is one of those great experiences where just wearing the glasses and walking around and showing you what I'm literally looking at, I think is kind of cool. So the people that watched it, I'd be curious to know what you guys thought. I didn't get a lot of feedback yet, but I am curious to know what people thought of it. So that was pretty cool. All right, I'm sorry. I'm going to stall for 1 second here
No, you're
to
fine.
send this link because Henry says he's ready. It's from you from last week,
Yeah, the one.
right?
The
So that's
one.
what.
Ricky, the one you gave to Ricky,
Uh,
the one that ends in 5118.
5118. There we go. All right. So I've sent that to him, and we'll see if he can get logged in and join us, which would be cool.
That would be
And then
cool.
one other quick thing that was a cultural experience last night. Same bridge going the other way though. Last night, I had to get a battery for my mouse of all things. So last night I went out because I was in the middle of editing and yeah, needed to go get the battery. The bridge was jam packed, like one of the worst traffic jams I've seen. And that's because as soon as I got over the bridge, there's a massive temple there. There's temples everywhere. There's a massive temple, and there were hundreds, I'm going to say hundreds. There were hundreds of monks lined up on the edge of the sidewalk. And then people were walking up kind of in the street and then handing various monks gifts and money and things. And I had no idea what was going on, and I have no idea how to pronounce this, but it was apparently Maka Buka Day 2025, and I'm sure I'm mispronouncing it. It's a religious celebration marking Lord Buddha's teachings to his disciples that falls on February 12th, 2025. When I came back, I thought I was going to go out for 10 minutes. I was gone for 3 hours. When I came back, and it was midnight or 12:30 or 1 or whatever it was, still one of the biggest traffic jams I've ever seen in Chiang Mai.
Wow.
Just to get over this bridge, to get past, I'm sure thousands of people came through there to the hundreds of monks that were along the street. Again, I'm just going to put this link actually in the chat for anyone that cares. It was just incredible to see. I'll have to read more about it. I was just sent that link late last night. I'll have to read more about it, but it was pretty crazy to see. I also think I did record that at one point on the glasses, so maybe I'll put that out as a separate video. But yeah, just crazy. It's something I would have never envisioned. Is just hundreds of these monks all on the street, and then yeah. Anyway, I'll leave it at that.
Well, we've got somebody in our green room, Terry.
What?
That's
Sweet.
right. We've got Henry Pearson coming in. So let me bring him in here. Welcome to the show, Henry.
Hey, gents. How you doing? It's very nice to meet you both.
We don't have your audio, though, Henry. So you might need to...
Let me see.
Oh, I hear him.
Oh, do you? Oh, I know
think
why.
that's on you, Johnny.
That is because
Yeah.
I'm sorry, I had Terry soloed, so I could only hear Terry. You're good.
Can you hear me now?
I can hear you now. You sound great. All right.
All right. I'm not seeing anything, but I don't think that matters.
Nope, it doesn't.
Ah,
Terry.
there we go. There we go. I do. All right. Yes. Well, Henry, thank you for joining us. How you doing?
I'm fantastic, thank you. We've just wrapped up a big season here in New Zealand, so I'm still high on life, really, after 5 weeks down under. It's been fantastic.
Yeah. Well, let's start with only because this is about as international as it gets. Where are you right now, and what time is it?
Let me show you a bit of the background that I've got behind me. I'm currently in the Northland in New Zealand, which is right up the top of our beautiful country, and I'm lucky enough to be enjoying a couple of days off. But I've been all over the place over the last few weeks, and we've touched pretty much every corner of our great country, and we've had 4 events along the way and had some of the world's best players come and join us here for that period. So it's been pretty sweet.
Well, let's start. Well, first of all, congrats. Because it's all finished, so I can say that for sure. But let's go back just a little bit and get a little more of the actual story or the impetus to this tour starting, and what you guys were trying to accomplish and how it all came about, and then ultimately how it came together.
Yeah, certainly. So the Tour Down Under was conceived roughly 2 years ago. At that time, we just had the pleasure of welcoming Nate Perkins to New Zealand, who came to our country sort of on his own bat. And at that time, he competed in a couple of events on what was then the New Zealand Disc Golf Tour. And one of those events was the New Zealand National Championships, which Nate went on to win. And having enjoyed our country and played so well here down under, Nate suggested to myself and Simon Feasey, who's the co-founder of RPM Discs here in New Zealand, that our country is just primed for great disc golf action, and that in order to get a greater number of his Disc Golf Pro Tour peers to our country, that we sort of needed to put on a more truncated and organised sort of schedule at a time of year that suited players to come and join us. And that was the impetus really for founding what would become the Tour Down Under. Last year, 2024, we launched with a pilot season, 4 events in 4 weeks, and at the time we welcomed, I think it might have been 8 or 9 US, really prominent US players and figures. Corey Ellis, Zoe Andyke, Paul Oman, Luke Humphreys, Sullivan Tipton, just to name a few. Nate himself, he came and joined us again for another year. And we had a great stellar season to sort of start things off. And on the back of that first season, we thought, well, we've got something potentially going here. Let's see, what we can do in terms of building on that momentum. And we've just, as you alluded to earlier, capped off our second season in a row, January and February here, 2025. 4 events, 5 weeks, some of New Zealand's absolute primo disc golf locations, and all of that captured on coverage by our great media partners at GoThrow. We had 19 of the world's top 100 professionals joining us in New Zealand, most of them from North America, and then they were effectively taking on some of New Zealand's rising stars, Levi Stout, Francis Orange. It's a couple of names that have really made a name for themselves here and on the Tour Down Under. So, yeah, it's been a big couple of years.
Again, congrats. It's awesome to hear of so much success in especially such a short turnaround in a short time of even thinking about the concept to where you guys are at. Is there 2 questions? Well, let's start with this one. Do you plan to necessarily have it expand, or is this kind of the window and the sweet spot of the amount of events that you want to host as part of this overall timing?
Our thinking is that, look, we don't want to clash with what's going on in America. You've got some great things happening on the Disc Golf Pro Tour, and also some other things going on in Europe, and it's not really our place to try and come in over the top and directly compete. We want to be a complement to the Disc Golf Pro Tour. Even what I would say is that when we established Tour Down Under, we thought we could be the cheeky little cousin to the Disc Golf Pro Tour. We're this fun little thing at the corner of the world. We've got this great place to come and enjoy. So that's sort of at top of mind, I think, with our brand position. In terms of timing around the year, we think we've got maybe 5 or 6 weeks either side of Christmas to operate as sort of a core window. And in my view, the latter of those two, being post New Year's, is probably the best one to do it. It gives those touring professionals in the States some sufficient time off to go home and recoup after what would have been a big Disc Golf Pro Tour season ending in October, and then enjoy Christmas and New Year with family, and then come here to New Zealand and get warmed up for a big season.
Well, and then to follow that up, with that 5-6 week-ish window, do you see some kind of bidding process in terms of having the events at those specific locations, or do you feel like you're kind of settling into what you think will be the premier events on those premier courses, or do you see the actual events somewhat changing up year after year?
I think it would be nice to add in a bit of variety, and we're very fortunate here in New Zealand to have so many great courses and clubs to collaborate with. The Tour Down Under isn't per se the tournament operators of events. We support existing event hosts and the local clubs here in New Zealand and with marketing and promotion and a few other components to really juice up a great event. But like I said earlier, I think we've featured 4 or 5 different locations here in New Zealand across the last 2 seasons, and already some of the other clubs here in New Zealand and in different regions have said, you know what, we really want to host a Tour Down Under event in years to come. I think that's a great incentive as well for returning players to come back and explore places that they haven't been before in previous seasons. So I would expect in the next couple of
Yeah,
years we'll have a couple of staples that we've seen year on year, but then also some new venues to promote and enjoy.
yeah. I was just going to say that I could see players being a little. New Zealand's this incredible place, and there's a million things you can do off the course. However, I like the idea of slightly different courses because I think that'll incentivize the players from the U.S., for instance, or maybe players from all over the world, I should say, that are excited to see a new course and have a slightly different experience each time they go. Even though you'll probably have some pillars and some events that maybe are always there. However, maybe switching it up a little bit, I think, will be really appealing as well. So that's awesome.
One thing
Is
I thought to
there?
just add on that is that we
Mhm.
we named the tour down under as such, and thinking that at some point we might work with our friends over in Australia to create a Trans Tasman New Zealand Australia tour. To come all of this way and experience New Zealand, it would seem sort of amiss to not pop over the ditch as a visiting European or American person to come and enjoy Australia as well. So maybe you'll see in due time that we sort of stretch ourselves out across both Aussie and New Zealand.
Yeah, which is funny because that was the exact philosophy I had when I came to Australia. Uh, I don't know, I think it was 6 or so years ago. I had a great time in Australia for a few weeks, and then I said exactly that. Like, I can't come to Australia without going over to New Zealand. Simon Feasey, as you just mentioned, very graciously put me up for a few days. I got to see a little bit of Auckland and play some golf and everything else over there as well. So you're right; it makes perfect sense that there could be some collaboration. Would you see that as being like a Melbourne and Tasmania, that kind of like the what, southeast Australia? Or you wouldn't be as concerned about like incorporating Western Australia at that point, would you? I mean, that's, or maybe you would, I don't know.
Yeah, Perth's effectively another country in terms of how far
Exactly.
it takes us to get there in some ways. But and saying that there's some great people over there, so that's probably the biggest consideration in terms of how the tour down under expands its wings, and it's more about working alongside fantastic people and motivated clubs and at great locations as opposed to just how far we have to go to make that all work. But yeah, like I said, we haven't really
Yeah.
explored that Australian component yet. It's maybe something that you'll see in 2026 or beyond.
Well, and that goes hand in hand with the idea that Australia, this last year, made a very concerted effort that, kind of like you guys, they had an entire month of events. I don't know if it was 4, 5, 6 weeks, whatever it was, but I feel like it was almost the entire month of November. There was, the doubles championships and all these other things that were going on. Same concept. You get to that side of the world, most people have to travel a long way to get there, and when you're there, give them a whole month of options of playing golf. I'm not sure that that's something that they're going to try and continue necessarily, but maybe it works out really well that the entire tour down under incorporates Australia. Maybe it's for one weekend or whatever. I don't know. I'm like you're saying, just stuff to explore, but it sounds like it could be pretty exciting.
Yeah, absolutely, for sure. I think that level of expansion for us is probably 2 years away, if not more.
Okay.
Knowing that we had a great pilot season in 2024, we feel like we really just nailed our 2025 season in terms of building on the momentum that we set with our pilot season, and then the 2026 season is sort of part of the primary purpose. I think going forward in year three is how can we make this a commercially viable kind of opportunity for us, so that we can continue to welcome as many people here to New Zealand, both on the professional side, but also fans of the game and amateurs who just want to come and explore the country, follow along the season, have some maybe more intimate and tight-knit kind of experiences with those visiting professionals who do come to New Zealand. And getting that sort of piece of the puzzle and the operations and logistics of that right, I think is going to be really key for 2026. So maybe Australia's sort of down the line after that.
Sure. Sure. What would you say is the number? what's been the most surprising thing for you in this whole process? What's like just really taking your breath away, or knocks you off your feet in terms of, and it could be good or bad, but what's been the most surprising thing for you?
That's a great question. There's probably a couple that come to mind. I think the first is that initially when we founded the Tour Down Under, we thought the type of player that we were going to be able to attract here in New Zealand were sort of maybe more on the veteran side of the game, players who were nearing their end of their touring careers and just wanted to come and enjoy New Zealand in a holiday sense. And so in year one, we kind of did have that to a degree. We had Juliana Korver and Jim Oates and Zoe Andike
Mm-hmm.
and Corey Ellis, who you could argue is now in his 30s, so maybe it could be considered a veteran.
Mm-hmm.
This year, we managed to recruit some amazing rising stars who are absolute staples of the sort of disc golf's young cohort in Ezra Robinson, Braden Sides, Robert Burridge,
Mm.
Emily Weatherman, Taylor Chosick, Sophia Donica. These guys are just absolute killers of the game, and they've got many a year now to be continuing their touring ambitions over in the US. That was a surprising element that we didn't think that we would get such strong interest and representation from that age group. I think another has just been how well the coverage has been received. Oh, sorry, Terry, I almost cut you off there, but
No.
we,
Keep going. Yeah.
we've had the great fortune of working with our friends at GoThrow, formerly GK Pro, here in New Zealand each of the last 2 years, and the viewership on the coverage that they've been producing has been incredible. But I think even more than that, the extent to which the comment section sways from positive to negative, it is overwhelmingly positive and complimentary about the type of content that's being produced. So that gives us great faith that we're onto a good thing. We're satisfying a need for disc golf fans around the world to enjoy great disc golf at a time of year where they might be sort of stuck in their homes because of inclement weather or snow or what have you. And not only that, the scenery that we get to capture at each and every event that we promote here in New Zealand is really world class. So that's probably the two most surprising things.
Yeah. And I was just gonna say, I'm almost not surprised, as you just described that, because you've got great courses with a great production crew that's obviously really well received and does great work. And then the icing on the cake is now you've got these very reputable, notable players, and you're doing it during a time which, like you said, is very much a slow season, and their only alternative is to watch something that I'm filming at Vista. So, you, but seriously, like you have, like, those are all the pieces to the puzzle pretty much that you would need. I can't think of anything else that you absolutely would need otherwise. Not to take anything away, but when you're adding in these reputable, known players, like that is for sure going to be like that final piece. And I feel like there's a lot of great production companies out there covering stuff on good courses, doing a great job of it all. But if you don't have a couple of staples that people really want to know about or really want to watch, if you don't have that component, that's when I think you probably don't get the viewership that it deserves. But you guys have that covered as well, with the names that you just mentioned, that have come in 2024, 2025, and it's only going to build upon that because they're obviously going to recruit more people that are going to want to come and have the same experience. So from that perspective, it doesn't surprise me to see that success in terms of all those pieces to the puzzle. So congrats to you guys for getting all those puzzle pieces and then being able to put them together the way you have. It's absolutely awesome to see.
And then someone on the board
Thanks,
asks about, did you help out any of the pros as far as tour or travel or lodging or anything like that? Were you able to help, direct them to good places, or was there anything? Because coming to a new country.
Yeah, where's the assistance?
Yeah, where's the assistance in that?
Yeah, you're right. It's a pretty daunting sort of task to go. I'm entering the abyss that is, New Zealand. I don't know too much about this place, and we supported each of our players to make the trip down here with some travel guidance and accommodation sort of recommendations. And the cost to come to New Zealand isn't too bad, but it's certainly more expensive than maybe traveling as you normally would throughout the off season to Arizona or other places where you could play, Texas, where you could play some disc golf. But one of the ways that we supported players was providing accommodation through or lodging in conjunction with some of our local hosts and who are associated with each club here in the region. And we had some wonderful host families who put up pros for the week that the tour came to town. And they pretty much, for most of the duration of the tour, sort of covered those accommodation needs. I think I said in one of my speeches recently at the end of a tournament that we had 9 players join us in year 1, 19 players join us in year 2, and if that trend continues, we'll have 30 or more next year, which either means we've got some great sponsorship coming our way to account for some of those accommodation needs, or we've got a big problem on our hands being able to put up everybody in beds. But look, it's a great problem to have, that's for sure. Just to touch again on the core question that you asked, most of those players, we had some conversations with their major sponsors to work together in sort of like a mutually beneficial triangle. The sponsor would support the player to make the trip down to New Zealand. The tour down under could offer that sponsor some exposure through the tour's activities, either in coverage or with appearances on lead cards or some advertising stuff, maybe some social media content, so on and so forth. And then obviously the tour benefits from being able to promote those players as a feature player on the season. So lots of different ways we can make it work, really. And fortunately, it's not as simple as a case of we've got to front up some money to pay for flights and this and that and the other thing. And if that was the case, then I don't think the model would work.
It's been almost a decade since we've seen the Aussie Open as a major. Is there any ambition from your guys' side to maybe see a major, the Kiwi Open as a major somewhere? Maybe like I could see something like a late January, early February major to swing the season off on any given particular year. Get a bunch of players down there to play. Is that an ambition for you guys?
Yeah, that's a great idea, John. We had some great conversations with the players who joined us this year about just that. And some of the feedback was that the current major schedule means that all 4 of the majors are concentrated within about a 3 or 4 month block. Mm-hmm. And so if we were able to spread that out a little longer over the course of a calendar year, then that could be quite attractive. So I think my sense is that the market here in New Zealand for disc golf, both on the fan and the player participation side of it, is maybe just a little too immature yet to be able to kind of bring a PDGA major to New Zealand. But that's certainly a key piece, I think, to our sort of 3 to 5 year plan. And as we continue to build on our sort of media distribution options and a few other things, I think it would be well within our capability to be able to pull off a fantastic PDGA major in New Zealand. You could call it an Asia Pacific Championship, or maybe it's a Trans-Tasman Championship. I'm not sure, but there's some great courses here and clubs who could suitably host such a major.
Well, what has been the feedback, or some of the feedback, that you've received from the players? I guess I specifically, I think about the U.S. players that are kind of our veteran pros or up and coming pros, like you were just referencing. What's been some of the feedback?
With regards to their experience, I think in New Zealand is if that's kind of what you're getting at.
Mm-hmm.
My understanding is that they all had an amazing time in New Zealand, and I think part of the genuineness of that feedback is just how eager the players are working to try and get back year on year. Last year, every single one of the players who joined us in 2024 made it their absolute effort over the off season to try and get here again. And there were a few who couldn't join us again, but they were for reasons that were beyond their control, or they just couldn't make it work for one reason or another. But boy, oh boy, did they try. And yeah, the tourism experiences off the course are maybe for many people just as much of the appeal, if not more, than even the on-course experiences. We host great events, that's for sure, but to go and
Hmm.
hike up New Zealand's largest volcano in Mount Taranaki, to go and explore bungee jumping and rapid jets and canyon swings and other things which we were able to set up for those players who joined us in New Zealand, those are like lifelong memories that those players will take home and rave about to all of their friends and family. I specifically recall Braden Sides, who's one of our rising stars who joined us in New Zealand this year. He confided in me and actually said quite publicly many times that a dozen times over the course of the Tour Down Under experience, he said, this is the greatest moment I've ever had in my life. About 12 different things, you know? And so I think that that's probably pretty exemplary of the type of time these guys have had here. And so we look forward to welcoming many of them back in years to come.
Yeah, I mean, again, it's such a no-brainer to make this part of your experience, and for everything that you guys have to offer, and the just the exotic nature of everything that's over there. That is that extra piece, that extra component of having a good tour and having people come, stay, and then also having people return in following years, because it's going to take decades before you get to see and do everything that you probably want over in that area of the world, whether it's New Zealand and or you may be incorporating Australia at some point, whatever. There's just going to be so many of those opportunities. I guess that goes hand in hand with, was there any feedback in terms of the on course and off course balance? And for instance, you had a week off just last week, I think it was. Is the timing and the pacing for the events and the on course practice demands, do you feel like it balanced out pretty well? Did the players say that did they have feedback about that for on and off course experiences?
Yeah, the feedback I've had is that the on-course experience and the way in which the schedule was set up is pretty close to optimal in terms of the time of year that we're
Okay.
working at, the demands of how many tournaments are on the schedule. We did 4 events this year with that week off as well, and this year we had 3 events in New Zealand's North Island, and then a week off, and then 1 event in New Zealand's South Island. And ideally, in an optimal sort of world, we would have 2 in the north, then a break, and then 2 in the south. That's probably the only
Hmm.
significant improvement, I think, to that scheduling. But we're already getting that ball rolling at the moment, so should be sorted pretty soon. I think some of the next steps for the
Awesome.
tour in terms of how can we go from recruiting, say, 20 players for a great season from the elite touring pros that you see week in, week out on the Disc Golf Pro Tour, from 20 to 40. I think the level of sponsorship interest and payouts and other things probably needs to lift in order for us to prick up the ears of some players who might have gone, well, what's in it for me? If I take the leap of faith to come to New Zealand and pay a little bit of extra coin to make that travel during my off season. Other than that, not too much else springs to mind.
No, I love that exact concept. Like you just said, the 2 weeks on, a week off, and then 2 more weeks on in the other region or South Island or whatever. That's what I think about, is that balance and how it can be maximized for everybody, like you said, to enjoy both on and off course activities. It's Yeah, I love it. I love it. So we mentioned earlier in the show that Holland Hanley won an event there, but then disappeared. She's like, "Oh, mic drop. I'm out." What was that conversation? I'm guessing you talked to her at some point. She came for just one event. Is that true? And then
She,
did she go do other stuff?
yeah, that's right. I'll just let you know my computer might die in a moment, so I have to switch over to another device.
Okay.
But yeah, that is the case. So Holland had some existing obligations in Mexico before
Mm.
arriving in New Zealand, and then also had another obligation with one of her sponsors immediately after competing and winning the New Zealand Disc Golf Open. So we tried every angle under the sun to convince Holland to be here for longer, and she and her partner Tyler had an amazing time, and no doubt in in years to come, we'll welcome the both of them back. So, yeah.
Yeah, awesome. Yeah, it makes perfect sense. Yeah, there's obligations that have to happen for some of these people in the off season, and I know she's got a lot of things going on. Oh,
Well,
um,
as I said, we don't have to keep you too much longer, Henry. If your computer is going to die, was there
No worries.
anything? Is
yeah,
there? I mean, is there anything about the tour that you'd like to share with I don't want to say the top pros, because obviously we want to appeal to all level pros, or even any travelers that are interested in going. It's making me think, can I go down there with my family and then get an event in a weekend?
Yeah, I think part of the development of the tour is going to be in the context of welcoming fans of the game, amateur players, people who just wanted to tick New Zealand off their bucket list and also happen to love disc golf. I think finding new and innovative and expansive sort of ways to invite those people to come and enjoy New Zealand will be a key piece to 2026. So keep an eye out, I guess, on the Tour Down Under's socials and website and stuff. And you'll find, I think, over the coming months, probably mid-year, we'll launch a pretty well planned out and well-considered line of ways in which you can come and experience New Zealand, just as the pros who you saw this year did.
one of my final questions, and funny enough, I think my phone might die soon too, which means we're gonna have a shorter show, which is okay. But one of my final questions is, you're listed, I believe, as ultimately the tour director, manager. I'm sorry, what's your title?
Tour director. Tour director.
Tour director. And you said, of course, you have all these, local events, or I'm sorry, local organizing committees, and the people that are running the events, and the tour is not specifically necessarily running them. What kind of staff and/or support and/or like organization is it? You and then you directly just working with all these different clubs and other events, or do you have a few people that also assist you in what you're doing outside of
Yeah,
the events themselves?
Sure. Yeah, the Tour Down Under in and of itself has a core leadership team of 4 personnel.
Okay.
I serve as the chief executive or tour director, and then we have a Hanafi Zwart, who's been our operations director. Simon Feasy from RPM Discs is our director of people and relationships. He's got wonderful relationships over his fantastic 25 years in the sport, if not more. Between our friends at PDGA and New Zealand Disc Golf Association and some professional people and so on and so forth. And this year we had the pleasure of being supported by Andrew Jacob, who is part of the Disc Golf Pro Tours operations team. And Andrew just sent us a message out of the blue, kind of mid to late last year, and said, "Hey, I'm keen to come and explore New Zealand, and if you would be willing to put me up for the couple of months, I'll book my flights and I'll come down and support you guys in any way that we can." And Andrew was an absolute godsend. He was incredibly helpful and supportive throughout the season. So the 4 of us together pretty much lead the logistics and of tour life and what it takes, I think, for us to add the value that we hope to do and promise to each of our event collaborators. And then on top of that, we also manage and support our professional players to come down and assist them with their itineraries and accommodation and so on and so forth. So, yeah.
Awesome. I got to ask then, knowing how much effort you're putting into this, you and the rest of those gentlemen, what do you do outside of running this tour? What's kind of your career or background?
Not a whole lot in the last 6 months, to be honest. It's been pretty much just this. But
Sure.
I've thoroughly enjoyed it. My background personally is in a brand strategy, brand development, sort of business strategy type of lens. I developed the Tour Down Under brand from a visual perspective and sort of lead all of the e-commerce and website and social media stuff and a few other things. And but then sort of beyond that, I had a retail store here in New Zealand for the last couple of years, and as the tour has grown, my involvement in that retail store is sort of diminished a little bit, and to the point where I'm now just devoting as much time and effort as I can into the tour. So yeah, it's been a bit of that, a bit of freelance work, and then primarily over the last 6 months at least, the tour down under.
That's awesome.
Okay. So final question along those lines of all your development and everything else. I just followed you on Instagram. Give everyone your socials or where they should be looking. Obviously, the coverage is a huge starting point, but where else should they be looking for information to know more about what's going on and getting updates in the future?
Yeah, definitely. The best places to learn about and explore all things Tour Down Under on our website, www.tourdownunder.co.nz. We've got social media handles on pretty much all of your major social media platforms at Tour Down Under DG. And then I'd also highly recommend your viewers and subscribers go and check out our coverage with our great friends at GoThrow on YouTube. GoThrow are amongst the best in the world to produce disc golf coverage, and we have the absolute pleasure of working with them. So some great coverage over the last 4 weeks. If you haven't watched it yet, you might have a bit of a binge session over the next 2 weeks and watching all of those events. So follow our friends at GoThrow.
Yeah, exactly. I haven't had a chance. I've been either producing content or in another country doing stuff, which means I need to get caught up. So I'm super glad you had all these
Yeah,
answers for us because I learned a ton tonight, and I'm excited to go consume the coverage and see what was going on. And obviously, the whole world's been talking about it for the last month, which is a massive testament to everything that you guys have been doing. And congratulations on all the successes you've had, and we're very excited to see what you're going to do moving forward. So thank you so much for joining. Any parting shots, any final things you have for us before we let you go?
no, oh, thanks so much, Terry. That means a lot, particularly coming from you guys who have contributed so much to our great sport. And, we're trying to do our piece here in New Zealand. And I know that the both of you have done, everything that you can under the sun to promote and help nurture our great sport into becoming not so much of a niche sport anymore. It really is becoming, a big deal. And I think, if anything, our season this year, as well as the momentum that we set in 2024, is proving that disc golf is the real deal, and New Zealand is one of the best places in the world to come and experience it. So we invite many a fan, player, and friend to come and join us in New Zealand in 2026 and beyond.
Awesome. Well, again, congrats. It's obvious you guys will continue to build and grow upon the start that you've had over these last couple of seasons, and the entire disc golf world is very blessed to see the vision, or to be able maybe to benefit from the vision and then the execution that you guys have put out. So appreciate you joining us. We certainly will have to have you back before the tour kicks off next year, and we can get some more promotion out there and talk about what's to come in 2026. So let's put it on the calendar to have you back in I don't know, 8 or 9 months or so, and we can start previewing 2026.
You beauty. Yeah, it'll be my pleasure, and has been my pleasure, to join you today. Thanks again, Terry and John, and I look forward to seeing you soon.
Thanks a lot, Henry. We appreciate it.
All right. Thank you. Yeah. Thank
Thanks.
you. Have a good night.
Likewise.
If that tour gets any bigger, I'm going to have a subsection for Skip Ace. I'm going to have like a New Zealand,
Yeah.
to
Absolutely.
try to keep,
Yeah.
I'm not opposed to having a sub tour, because normally I just kind of keep DGBT and majors. But if this is going to continue to grow like it is, the way Henry has been, and others obviously down there have been expanding it, it makes sense to have something like that on Skip Ace for this little tour from January or December, whatever it is, through early February. I'm excited. This is really cool to have this kind of expansion in this area of the world.
Yeah. And I'll say in 5 to 10 years, maybe we're having a similar conversation about a Southeast Asia tour.
Yeah.
I think like he said, they're building blocks, and
Mhm.
and it takes a lot to coordinate and make everything happen. But you got to love it. As someone said on the board, a very smart individual. Clearly, that was the case.
Mhm.
And then he's surrounding himself with a bunch of other really great people. And then they have great events, great property, continue to entice players to come. It looks like they're doing a lot of things right. And it's awesome. It's absolutely awesome. So very cool. And appreciate Henry for joining us here tonight so we could get a little bit more insight. Uh, as he said, and as you've said, Johnny, so many people continue to talk about how great the coverage is and how great of an experience it looks like, and all of these players are having. So I'm not really surprised by any of that. What I will say, to follow that up and to put a pin, finally put a bow on it, playing or not, even if you're not interested in playing, it sounds like a damn good vacation, right?
I'm
Like, go
honest.
over there
I was
for a couple of
100%.
weeks, taking a
Yeah,
couple of the events. Yeah, and
I was
that's what I
100%
think sounds
honest
really
when
appealing.
my wife asked me just the other day. We're sitting on the couch, and she's like, "So, are we doing a vacation at all this summer or anything?" And I'm like, I don't know. Maybe we could maybe plan something." And I just kept thinking, I'm like, I'd love to get overseas to go to Worlds, like maybe try to tie something in
Hmm.
with that. But I'm like, that's a lot of money for a whole family and this and that. And obviously all the things. But then I was thinking, well, it'd be fun maybe to go to like New Zealand. I'm like trying to think like where would the family have more fun? Would they have more fun in like Sweden or would they have more fun in New Zealand? I don't know. But it's definitely it's a problem I'm gonna have to think through, Terry.
Yeah, well, problems you have, Johnny.
I know.
And before the internet gets
Coming
mad
from
at you,
coming from the guy in
Finland, not
Thailand
Sweden.
or Finland, yeah, sorry, coming from the guy in Thailand right now. But
I just don't want the internet yelling, "Hey, it's in Finland, you idiot!"
I did say Finland, or I did say Sweden,
know.
but Finland.
I know.
But
I
yeah,
know.
Finland.
I knew what you meant.
But
We all knew what you meant.
but to be honest, I'd probably
anyway.
go to Norway.
Yeah?
And then
Yeah.
just because that's honestly that's where more of our heritage is in general, being Norwegian. But anyway, and then I would make a point to make it to Worlds, so that would be my thing. But Terry, I think we need to wrap it up here any minute. I've got
Yep.
a wonderful wife upstairs who just turned the ripe young age of 29 again. So
30. Oh, 29.
again,
She's getting younger.
she is. It's amazing. And I did something I've never done
Yes.
before. I baked a cake.
Oh, jeez.
I baked a cake. I surprised
Oh,
her.
wow.
So
And
she
have
just
you tried it?
No.
Have you eaten it?
no. But to be fair,
Did she?
the cake. No, she just got home because she had to do. She went
Okay.
volunteering tonight with my son's robotics
Mhm.
team. She's helping with communications and fundraising. And while she was gone, I surprised. And I'm not gonna like sit here and say I'm Betty Crocker, but that's where the cake came from. Was Betty Crocker box?
Of course.
Of course.
Betty Crocker box with some Betty Crocker frosting,
No,
probably.
that's
That's
made
exactly
the
how
frosting.
you should do it.
I made the frosting from scratch.
Oh, damn.
Yeah.
Why would you risk it?
Because
Like, they
Yeah.
just make a tub of frosting.
they do. I know, but I
Okay.
was thinking baby steps, Terry. Baby steps.
You're bold. I mean, no,
I know.
that's why I say I would have
Yeah.
gone with just trying to make the cake and then slap the frosting on that is going to be, because now you might have made a
At
great,
that point, why not just
great
buy a cake
with
from
terrible frosting?
Why not just buy the cake from the grocery store? Right?
All right, you
and
are.
then in
yeah.
M&Ms,
All right.
I put her age on the top of the cake. So we'll see, because I didn't have any candles, and I knew I couldn't get him to light up anyway, being down here with her just getting home. So I want to get upstairs and give a little
Okay.
bit of celebration.
Well, yes,
with her.
happy birthday to your wife, Sarah. Yes, tell her I said so.
I will make sure.
All right. Well, I'm good. I'm good. I'm good to go as well. I've got a bunch of stuff to get done myself.
You got a
I'm
crown
in
to
Chiang
get
Mai,
put in.
and I've only got a little more than a day left here in Chiang Mai. Then I'm flying to tomorrow. It's Wednesday here. Tomorrow I fly to Cambodia for my first ever visit to Cambodia.
That's cool.
I'm super excited to again consume some culture and everything else that's over there, and take it all in. There's still audio?
There is.
Okay. I think I just heard my earbud also tell me it's dead. So with that, let's call it. We're gonna have extra giveaways. I got a few things from Chiang Mai. We'll talk about the Chiang Mai Open in another week or two when we've got coverage out. Watch the Memorial FPO footage that's releasing, and I'll give you guys some more updates from both Chiang Mai and Cambodia here in the next few days on all my socials. So We want to thank Henry again for joining us, giving us all the information on the Tour Down Under. Looking forward to the 2026 iteration of that. And yeah, I think that's about everything. We'll see you. You won't see me, but Johnny and somebody will be on next week, and we'll see you then when you step inside the Smashbox.
Thank you to our $2 and above patrons. Your name is listed below in the credits. If you are interested in being listed as a producer in the Smashbox TV credits and supporting this and other fine podcasts, please visit patreon.com/SmashBoxxTV.